Hello friends, this is David Sami with A Christian Journey. I'm delighted that you are here. Today we want to conclude our series on reflection on the result of the election. This is the second part. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about these prophets and prophecies, and also in light of Biden's presidency, what should we focus on? Where should we go from here? Now, we have had many people, when Trump became elected, we have had many so-called prophets to come out and say how Trump is God's man, how Trump is going to turn the country toward God, and how he even would have a worldwide impact toward God. And they almost elevated Trump to a messianic-like figure, like Cyrus, and how he is going to do great things for God. And when he ran for his second term, all of these prophets were basically saying that Trump is God's man and he's going to win the second term, even all the way up to the inauguration day. They were talking about how this is all part of a plan, and the military is there possibly to arrest Biden, and how Trump would become president in a very unusual circumstances. But none of these really happened. You know, I come from the school of thought that believes that we don't have apostles and prophets today. I know many of my friends who are charismatic and Pentecostal might see things differently. I don't want to focus on why I don't believe we don't have apostles or prophets today. I try to talk about that later. But I personally don't put much stock on these so-called prophets that will come out and say these things. And now that it hasn't worked out the way they proclaimed and prophesied, many of them are saying they're sorry, they made a mistake, some of them repent, but you see, nobody's holding them accountable. They're not accountable to anyone. And after a short while, they're gonna go right back up to prophesying and predicting things, and without any much remorse or any accountability. The other day, I was watching something on YouTube, and Kenneth Copeland was proclaiming that Ted Cruz was anointed to be a president or to be our next president. Where is he getting that from? Is God telling him this? You see, today, I think we should be careful about using this phrase, God said this to me, or God told me this. You know, I have heard it over and over and over again, and how some of us, we use this so casually that we feel like every time we have an impression or something that comes to our mind, God is speaking to us. And one good question to ask would be, how do you know that this is God? How do you know that God is speaking to you? So we need to be careful about this. But also, I want to really emphasize to be aware of religious manipulation. You know, many of these so-called leaders, or even these prophets, they may have their own agendas, or they may really sincerely believe that a certain candidate would really be great if they become president. And then they use possibly their office, or what they think their office is, to convince the rest of us that this is God's choice. God is declaring to us that this candidate should be the president. But you know, I think the best way is to evaluate candidate by ourselves and with prayer. When we see some candidates presenting themselves, we should evaluate them based on what they proclaim, what they believe, and the direction that they want to take this country, and pray about it. And choose the one that we feel would be the best candidate that would represent our views, as well as that it would be good for country. But not get manipulated just because somebody is a self-proclaimed prophet to come to us and said, God said this or God said that, and then we all get in line, because after all, this guy is a prophet and God is speaking to him, and God has told him who we should vote for. See, this can be manipulation. Beware of religious manipulation. And the second thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is prophecy. You know, when I just became a Christian, the churches that I attended were very big on prophecy. We studied the subject of prophecy religiously. We would look at all the prophetic schemes that are laid out in the Bible, and our focus was really on world events. What is happening in Middle East, what's happening in Europe. And this subject can be interesting. It's very interesting. And some of the leaders that I used to listen to, they felt like that prophecy is something that can get people excited about their faith, excited about Christian faith. But now, after more than 30 some years, I think it is a fleshly excitement. It's an excitement that would cause a stir in our nature, because it's natural. Most people want to know what the future has in store. That's why people follow horoscopes. That's why they go to fortune teller, because they want to know what is coming to pass, what the future has in store. But for us, it was looking at what the Bible has to say about future. But you see, what it does, it gradually becomes all of our Christian life. Yes, we would still read the Bible, but our heart was always toward prophetic fulfillment, what is happening, and it becomes a rabbit trail. You know, prophecy, the things that the Bible predicts about future, were meant to give us a broad picture of how things turn out. But in light of how things turn out, Peter tells us what manner of a person we ought to be. In light of what the outcome would be, we should consider how to live. You see, prophecy should never become the main goal in our Christian life, because it becomes a rabbit trail. As a matter of fact, recently a friend of mine who is talking to a lot of people on the subject of prophecy, they've been studying prophecy a lot and keeping an eye on world events and listen to this prophecy teacher. And it has freezed him in his Christian walk. And he came to me and he said, David, I really don't know what I should focus on, or where do I go from here. It just seems like his path has become foggy, because all he has focused is on world events and prophecy. And there are so many prophecy teachers that every week you can listen to someone that will get your mind and heart in a certain direction. But you see, this is not the goal of Christian life. We should focus on becoming godly, becoming more Christ-like, our personal transformation. That's the goal. But if the goal is to go in this direction, if we keep going veer off course, we're never going to arrive at our goal. So if you are interested in Bible prophecy, keep it as something on the side. Like, be aware of what is going on, but don't allow it to dominate your thinking and dominate your Christian life. I kind of keep an eye on world events, but I have learned to just keep it on the side and to focus on things that are really primary, to try to become godly. So keep that in mind about the subject of prophecy. But now that Biden is president, where do you go from here? You know, one thing I wanted to mention is don't allow yourself to become consumed by conservative outlets. And what I mean by that is, many of these outlets, they know what are the things that are important to us. And they begin to start pointing things out about Biden, pointing things about the direction the country is going, how things are going contrary. And over, to basically make us angry. Because if we become angry, then we become energized and motivated to change the course of the country, or in the midterm, change the election result, vote for, a conservative candidate or a conservative senator or house member. But you see, it is designed to boil our blood. It's designed to make us angry, because that's how we become energized. And Biden can never do anything right. It's the same thing when Trump was president. If we are on the left and we are listening to MSNBC, public radio, or CNN, Trump could never do anything right. Everything that he's doing is wrong and taking the country further away from the direction that they think it would be best. So you see, we can fall into the same trap. It's one and the same. It's just one is on the left and one is on the right. But one way that could be a good measure for us to see, have we gone too far in this, is, are you always angry? When you listen to these outlets, does it boil your blood? Does it make you just really hate the other side? You see, then we are being influenced by these outlets. We are going too far in it. I know for me, the way I am as an individual, I get very passionate about things, and I cannot handle that constant daily doses of how Biden is changing things, how Biden is doing this, how Biden is doing that. It would impact me. And I began then to become focused on all of these things rather than focusing on what God has said before me, rather than focusing on becoming godly. So if you notice that this is how you're becoming, don't allow this outlet to influence you to that extent. Know your limit, but again, some of us can handle it better than others. But my goal in mentioning this is that you don't allow yourself to become consumed by all of these outlets and what they say for the next 4 years. That's going to distract you from godliness and going toward God. Pray for Biden. Pray for him. Pray for the country. When Israelites, they went to Babylon, God told them to pray for Babylon, that it may go well for them. And also I believe that we should pray for Biden, that God would give him wisdom, that God would create a changed heart in him, that he would be a man of faith and he would go in the right direction, and all of these things. But don't allow yourself to become consumed and frustrated by talk radio and conservative outlet. And another thing, just a concluding thought, don't lose sight that we are pilgrims, we are alien in this world. But I think in these past 20, 25 years, we have had almost like a shift in American Christianity, because many people felt like that the Christian community is basically believing that the world is going to go to hell, so why polish a sinking ship? So we need to do away with that kind of thought and begin to get involved and, in a sense, win the country back for Christ. I think we should do what we can, but at the same time, not lose sight that we are aliens here. We are sojourner. This is not our home. New Jerusalem is our home. And we are traveling through this world. But we are looking for a country and a city that its maker is God, that we will never be able to convert this world to God, because the world is the way it is because of humanity's heart. And unless humanity's heart change, not much will change. But most of the natural man's tendency is based on self-interest and based on serving oneself. So we have a hard time when we are unregenerate to see things God's way. But in my understanding, this world is not going to get transformed, but it would get judged by God. And God would usher in a new kingdom. But we are looking for that kingdom. We are looking for that city that its maker is God. So don't lose sight of that. Just trust God, pray for the country, pray for the president. And if the news makes you too angry, just kind of keep it at distance. I personally don't listen to news. I just listen to the headlines, and basically that's it, because I don't want to get influenced. I don't want my mind and heart to get so ugly just because I have a differences of opinion with someone else. But I do want to be a godly person and focus on that. So these are just some concluding thoughts about the result of the election. I hope it's been a blessing to you, and look forward to talk to you soon. May the Lord be with you, and may He watch over you and give you peace. This is David Sami with the Christian Journey.